Good evening. Seeing that it is now 7 o'clock, I'll call to order a meeting of the Committee of Infrastructure being held this Wednesday, June 11th, 2025, at 7 p.m. in the Aldermanic Chamber and duly noted in two places, including the city's website in accordance with the requirements of RSA 91-A:2, numeral 2, Roman numeral 2. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Sure, Chairman. Alderman Thibodeau?
Here.
Alderman Sullivan?
Here.
Alderman Clee is here. Alderman Dowd?
Present.
And Chairman O'Brien.
Present.
You have 5 in attendance.
Okay, also expected, hopefully shortly, Matt Sullivan, Community Development Director, Sam Durfee, Planning Department Manager, Liz Hannum, Economic Development Director, and Jill Stanfield, Parking Manager.
She is on Zoom, sir.
She's on Zoom, so, okay, welcome, Jill. Also expected is Mr. Tim Cummings, Administrative Services Director. At this time, I will open up a public hearing on the petition for an amendment to petition for street discontinuance, a portion of the Veterans Memorial Parkway public right-of-way defined as Parkway Parcel. At this time, seeing nobody is here, I'll invite somebody from Braylord to come up and to present this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Brad Westgate. I'm a lawyer with Weiner & Bennett, 402 Amherst Street here in Nashua, and I'm representing Blaylock Holdings, LLC, which is the petitioner. With me is Michael Devon of Blaylock as well. First of all, I want to thank the committee for all the time, effort, and attention you've paid to a number of aspects of the Mohawk Tannery redevelopment, the various items of legislation that have come your way. We're eternally grateful, believe me. I'm just going to speak briefly on this petition for amendment to the street discontinuance petition. To note, on May 15th, the Planning Board voted unanimously to make a favorable recommendation to the full Board of Aldermen regarding this amendment to the street discontinuance petition that's before you tonight. Just a little bit of background and just right to the point. So I know the committee's aware that the full Board of Aldermen, of course, approved last year the Master Development Agreement for the Tannery project, and last night approved an amendment to that Master Development Agreement. And also the full Board has approved the purchase and sale agreement, and then as it was amended to contemplate the lease of this Parkway parcel, this 4.42 acres that's part of the Veterans Memorial Parkway right-of-way. As the committee knows, those 4.42 acres get integrated into the Mohawk Tannery development. Blaylock is going to initially lease that 4.42 Parkway parcel for a relatively short period of time, 2 to 3 years, fundamentally during the remediation process, and then close on the acquisition of it. Initially, it was contemplated we would close up front, if you will, on the acquisition of the 4.42 acres, but have deferred that for this 2 to 3 year lease period. Back in October of last year, the full Board granted our petition to allow street discontinuance for the 4.42 acres because unless that was discontinued from the right-of-way, the city wouldn't be in a position to lease or sell it to Blaylock and us integrated into the project. So presently, that petition that was approved last October is effective simultaneously when Blaylock acquires the Parkway parcel. So we have the chicken and egg develop. Because we're going to lease the Parkway parcel for a 2 or 3 year time frame, but in order to effect that lease, the discontinuance still has to occur. But for the discontinuance to occur, it can't be effective when we acquire it. It has to be effective sometime earlier. So all this petition to amend does, it changes the effective date of the discontinuance petition that the full Board approved last October. And instead of making it effective when we acquire the 4.42 acres, it's effective when the discontinuance plan itself gets recorded. That's a typical land plan. It was already approved last year by the full Board of Aldermen. So tonight, this amendment simply amends the effective date of when the discontinuance occurs, accelerating it from the time we acquire the fee in the property to the time when the discontinuance plan goes on record at the Registry of Deeds. Because what we anticipate and certainly hope is that this summer, that discontinuance plan gets recorded, the lease is signed, and we simultaneously close on the Mohawk parcel and the Fimble parcel next door. So I appreciate your time, and it's a proper, I'm happy to answer any questions, but thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for your explanation. And I feel we should move on with the public hearing. And at this point, I'll accept testimony in favor. Seeing none, I'll close the testimony in favor and open now testimony in opposition. Seeing none, I'll close the testimony in opposition, and I will reopen testimony in favor. Seeing none, I will close the testimony in favor and open the testimony in opposition. Seeing none, I will now declare the public hearing on the petition for street discontinuance and declare it closed at 7:06 p.m. And at this time, I will open up the regular meeting of the Committee of Infrastructure at 7:06 p.m. And 7:06, yeah, well, yeah, it's an official time. I will now open up to public comment. Seeing none, will the clerk bring us up on the communications, please?
Sure. From Sam Durfee, Planning Manager, AICP Planning Manager, referral for the Board of Aldermen on resolutions R25-159, R25-160, R25-161, R25-166, and, do I not have this right? Oh, and the amended petition for the street discontinuance regarding a portion of Veterans Parkway.
Okay, there being no objection, I'll accept the communication and place it on file. Without objection, I'll suspend the rules and allow for the communication that was received after the agenda was prepared. The clerk?
From Matt Sullivan, Community Development Director, in regards to R25-166 proposed amendment.
There being no objection, I'll accept the communication and place it on file. Unfinished business.
None?
New business resolutions.
None?
New business ordinances.
None.
Okay, petitions.
Petition for amendment to petition for street discontinuance, a portion of the Veterans Memorial Parkway. Mr. Chairman, I motion to grant, deny, petition for street discontinuance, a portion of the Veterans Memorial Parkway.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to put down,
Grant the petition?
yeah, to grant. Usually, traditionally, it always
Okay.
comes in with a positive motion.
Okay.
You may change it, but usually you always bring a motion forward on the positive. So we'll go for now with the grant.
To grant.
Yes, thank you.
That'll be my
With
motion.
that being said, any discussion on this motion? Alderman Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question goes to the petition that is in front of us now and R25-166. Are those, is that connected in any way? Is the petition connected to the resolution? It's very, I'll be honest, I'm very
Yeah.
confused. There's a lot there.
I'm going to let the attorney of record that is working on this project to explain that
Okay.
probably much better than I could.
I would
Could you
appreciate
come up
that.
to the mic and answer Alderman Sullivan's questions, please?
I'd be happy to. And we apologize for the denseness of this, frankly. They are related in this sense. The R-25-166 contemplates the city joining in 2 easements. Initially, the first easement, when we first presented this last month, for R-25-166, it pertained to an easement that would give access and utility rights to the Tamposi property that lies to the east of the Parkway, of the Mohawk Tannery site.
Yeah.
Because the property, that 4.42 acres, is being leased rather than purchased up front, the city, we need the city to join in the granting of that easement to Tamposi, because we won't own the land, all the land underneath it yet. We'll only be a tenant of the land in part. So the petition for the street discontinuance sets the stage for this lease to be signed, which then sets the stage for us to grant the easement with the city to Tamposi. So it's about 3 steps to get there, but that's how they're connected.
Okay.
I hope I wasn't too confusing.
No.
Yes, follow up?
So we had a vigorous public hearing before this. That was sarcastic. But I would be curious to know, if I were a member of the public, why would I be either opposed or in favor of this?
Of the petition itself, or
Yes, sir.
you would be in favor of it for the petition because it enables us to square off, if you will, the landmass that becomes the tannery, overall tannery project, and that in turn enables the remediation process to occur. The tannery project was never a viable project unless this 4.42 acres in the Parkway parcel was integrated into it. It's also important to remember that right now you may recall that in that 4.42 acres, the Parkway parcel, there's stormwater management systems that are already in there that'll be redone, as well as legally placed asbestos materials that was done when the Parkway was built that have to be retransferred out and moved as well.
Okay.
So the lease, the street discontinuance, they're all an integral part to the project's viability.
Sure.
Yeah.
And why would I be opposed to it?
I guess you would only be opposed, and be very blunt about it, if you thought somebody else could buy it and make something out of that 4.42 acres.
Mm-hmm.
But you wouldn't oppose the petition, because the petition still would have to go for anybody to
Sure.
buy it.
Okay.
And of course, this whole process went through an RFP back 2 years ago
Right.
when the purchase and sale was entered into with Blaylock and the city.
Okay. I appreciate the explanation.
No
Thank you.
problem.
Thanks.
Thank you, Alderman Sullivan. Alderman Clay?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I'm not mistaken, this is that piece of land that allows you to get to the Veterans Parkway, and so that you don't have to go through the neighborhood, correct? And that was the big thing, is we didn't want you to trudge this stuff through that neighborhood. And this stops all of that, and it brings it onto the Parkway, eliminating you to have to go through all where the residents are living and so on. It's a much safer, so it makes it a much better plan, more viable and safety-wise and everything for everybody.
Right.
It does create more traffic that's the only negative, it creates more traffic onto the Parkway, and we have to, be concerned that they're gonna have more trucks on the Parkway. That's the only negative to anything, but we know that with any project, there's always more construction, more trucks and so on, but this is also for the safety of the neighborhood that's behind it. So it's a really important thing that we do pass this.
That's really good.
Okay, thank you, Alderman Clay. Alderman Dowd?
Yeah, 2 things that this does. One, this is going to allow access to the Tamposi lots where they've been landlocked and haven't been able to develop housing up there. So this allows that development to go in, which adds to housing, adds to city tax rate, and the cars can come down through to get access to the Parkway. The only other concern I have is not a major concern, but just want to understand, if we're using that access to the Veterans Memorial Parkway for all of the trucks involved in the construction, how are we controlling the access to the Veterans Parkway? Because there are cars that go 50, 60 miles an hour in a 30-mile-an-hour zone, and big trucks pulling out onto the highway and onto that road. There needs to be some type of controls.
I believe that's a matter that is under discussion and consideration with DPW and engineering, and Michael Devon can address it a little further if you like.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes, you may.
Michael Devon, Blaylock Holdings. So as Brad said, and Alderwoman Clee pointed out, that right-of-way is essential for us to have access to the site. That doesn't include Little Florida. As part of the master development agreement, we are obligated within 30 days of construction activity beginning to have all traffic come through the right-of-way, so that we are not going through those neighborhoods to gain access to the site. So that was the main point. We have also undergone traffic engineering with our consultants in coordination with the city engineers, the city traffic engineers, Engineer Hudson, Engineer Wayne Husband, as well as Joe Mandola, for the long-term access to the site via the parkway. So as you recall, we have the remediation phase of this project, which will have all the construction vehicles that would be involved, which won't be a lot, but your concern is valid in the sense that there will be some traffic that wouldn't have been there otherwise. There will be a mobilization with all of the vehicles that are needed, a trailer, things like that will come onto the site. And we're actually, an email went out today from us asking clarifying information for that temporary road. And we're working with the city engineers to develop those exact controls that you're asking now. But then once we're done with the construction, that will be the main spine road for the redevelopment. And it's contemplated that we will install a signal at the site. That signal will be a turn signal for the long-term development. And that will be happening very early on in the redevelopment phase. But the traffic signal isn't warranted per the study during the remediation phase.
Follow up?
So just for the record, I'm 100% behind this project, so, and I certainly understand the access that you have to get to Veterans Parkway. I just wanted that information to be on the public record, and I'm going to go out on a presumption that when the trucks are pulling onto the parkway, you'll have a flag person there to stop traffic before the lights are installed later, but my only concern was the traffic on the Veterans Parkway and making sure that safety is a first concern.
Yes, sir, that's duly noted, and we are taking that very seriously. We're working with the city engineers to make sure that when we get started, we don't have hiccups on the parkway.
Okay, Alderman Thibodeau.
Just for awareness, is on Veterans Memorial Parkway, as soon as you pull on, there's like a white monolithic sculpture. Is that approximately where this
Yes.
entry road is gonna go in?
Yeah,
Right about where?
right around there, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, further questions by members of the committee? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now, moving on to tabled in committee. I'll turn it over to the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, I motion to remove from the table R25-166. R25-166, authorizing the city of Nashua to join in the granting of an easement for the benefit of map 62, lot 100, and adjacent land in connection with the redevelopment of the former Mohawk Tannery site.
Okay, discussion on...
Sorry, I recommend,
Well,
oh,
no,
the
no, you're
table,
way...
sorry, the
yeah,
table. I'm
yeah,
going too fast, sorry,
yeah.
I apologize.
Motion to take it off the
The
table.
motion
Yeah.
before us is to remove from the table. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, and R25-166 is now removed from the table, and it has been read by the clerk, so will the clerk want to make the motion for
I'm
final
sorry, yes, I
passage?
jumped the gun there. I motion to recommend final passage.
Okay, with the motion for final passage, it's open for discussion. But first, I'll recognize the attorney to give us an update on this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is it possible that Mr. Devon and I could just discuss this matter with the committee just for a few minutes?
Yes, yes.
Would you
Do
like
you want
us
to
to
come in and
stand or come
sit
in,
down?
or-
Yeah, you may.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. If I may address the committee, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. So there's a little more than meets the eye on this too, and back to Alderman Sullivan, because his first question I knew would lead to some more right now as well. So this petition, this resolution 25-166, when we submitted it last May, just this, past month, it pertained to the city joining in the so-called Tamposi easements, the easement that Alderman Dowd referenced, takes from the Veterans Parkway into the site and then over to the Tamposi property. During the last couple of weeks or so in our meetings with city staff, because of the lease situation I've described, it became apparent that it would make sense to also amend this resolution to incorporate the city's ability to join in one other easement, and that is, I'll call it the main spine road easement. That is the internal easement that goes from the parkway southerly on the site and then allows for access, utilities for the Mohawk Tannery development itself.
Yeah, if you want.
So before you is actually a revised R-25-166, which contemplates first amending the text of R-25-166 to also incorporate in it this second easement. And then, as an exhibit, there's that second easement itself. It's called Declaration of Easements, and I think Declaration of Access Easement, Maintenance Agreement, that sort of thing. In addition, the Tamposi easements had some modifications to it from when you first saw it. We've worked with both city staff and council for the Tamposis and have settled on, frankly, more streamlined language than we had initially. So, again, they're both these easements are driven from the fact of the lease of the Parkway parcel and the need for the city to join in the granting of both easements. It's just one or two other points. It's worth noting that in both easements, the city doesn't bear any financial obligations, even though it's partly a grantor because it still owns that leased parcel, the Parkway parcel, and doesn't have obligations to actually do physical work, if you will. So I believe you may have in front of you not just the motion, it had the motion to take off the table, which you did, but there would be a motion to amend R-25-166 to incorporate the language that adds in that second easement, the Declaration of Easements, and also add that other exhibit before you actually take up whether to vote on a favorable recommendation. So there's an amendment necessary to get to that step.
Right. So, with that, you should have in your seats the handout. And I would recommend to use it. You could preview it and take a look and everything. But it seems, in talking to Mr. Matt Sullivan, this has all been discussed, and the city is good with it. But to keep this going legally, we have to approve this amendment. And let's face it, the goal is right now to get the tannery project up and running. It has long been vacant and a nuisance to others in the neighborhood, so this is a step in the right direction. Did you have a question, Alderman Dowd?
Motion to amend R-25-166 with the language that was presented to us, with the amended language from our attorney.
Okay. The motion before us is to amend R-25-166, which is the handout that was passed to us, and which is the amended items are highlighted in blue. Okay. Any discussion on the motion? Yes, Alderman Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So just to boil this down, the amendment we're making to R-25-166 is to add additional easements to the original resolution, to the original easement that was drawn up. We're just adding more easements to it, essentially.
Yes, it adds one other easement to be granted in part by the city and in part by Blaylock, and that is the Monarch Street Spine Road Access Utility Easement, which the full text of it has now been appended to the amended R-25-166 as an exhibit.
Would that be the Parkway parcel?
Yes, it's going through the Parkway, and it also, that easement also goes through the tannery site proper as well, because it's for distribution of access and utilities throughout the site.
Okay, thanks for the explanation.
Further questions by members of the committee? No? Okay, I'll call for the vote of the Dowd amendment. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Alderman Clay, do you have a motion?
Yes, I do. Mr. Chairman, I motion to recommend final passage as amended.
Okay. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Yes, and thank you for coming. All right, and Alderman Clay, next motion, please.
Yes, I make, Mr. Chairman, I motion to remove from the table O24-034.
Okay. All those in favor to remove it from the table so that we can discuss it? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Before us now is O24-034, and I'll invite Ms. Hannum, seeing you're unfortunately the only one here, come into the front row. Oh, yes, excuse me, one thing, Ms. Hannum, you may sit, yes, but before we discuss it, will Alderman Clay, can you make
Sure. Yep.
motion, please?
Sure. At this time, I will make a motion to recommend final passage of O24-034, assigning the Pine Street Extension parking lot to Zone 3.
Okay. And I'll recognize Ms. Hannum. Can you bring this up, please?
Yeah, Liz Hannum, Economic Development Director, and I have on the Zoom call Manager Stansfield for the parking manager. We have been talking about this for quite a while. I'll just give a quick history of this. In October of last year, we passed or added this parking lot, the Pine Street Extension lot in the Mill Yard, to the permitting system. So we are allowing for daytime, nighttime, or full access passes there. However, we realized before implementing with the rest of the changes that we made to parking in January, that if we implemented it, we would not allow for hourly parkers to be there, so they're customers of the businesses that are there. So that's why this legislation came up, was to make sure that hourly parkers could also use the parking lot and not just permit holders. So we talked about this a little bit. There was some discussion about whether we should have added it to the permitting system or not. And then we had talked with the property owners, but the business owners didn't have any knowledge of the process. So Manager Stansfield and I went out yesterday and made sure all of the business owners that we could make contact with were aware of this. They all are aware. They just were kind of waiting on a date to figure out, what their plan was and how they would communicate with their customers. So we are hoping to implement this October 1st is what we gave them, is a kind of a good 3-month running time to get their communications in order with their customers. So that's how we've left it. The property owner is aware, as is most of the, we didn't get to talk to all of the business owners. They weren't available or they were closed during the time, but we have contact information for all of them, so we can certainly make sure that they're aware if this passes. The other thing that we heard was most people are perfectly fine with charging for parking as long as we fix the potholes with that money. The parking lot is in rough shape. They also would like us to install lighting, is what we heard quite a bit. And then the other comment was mostly about sort of our homeless residents in that area. So there was a lot of conversation around that as well. So that is what we're looking at in terms of what the business owners felt when we spoke with them.
Okay, very good. If you hold off on the questions, we are joined by Ms. Stanfield from the Parking Department. Do you have anything you would like to add?
Jill Stanfield, the parking manager. Director Hannum actually did a perfect job of summarizing where we're at and what we were able to do this week over there. So I think we are in a good position to push this legislation forward. We will continue to pass out some information in that parking lot. If this does pass tonight, we will put the signage back up there. Another way of notifying patrons and the tenants of the two buildings over there. So I think we're in a good position to move this forward.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Ms. Stanfield. I will now open it up to questions immediately to my left. Alderman Clay.
Thank you. Just two quick questions. One is, one of the tenants that had come forward, I think, was Greater National Mental Health, if I'm not mistaken. Did you speak with them?
We did.
And so they were the ones that I heard from the most. There were a few other businesses, but I did hear, I think, the loudest from them, and they were okay with their clientele and so on being able to do that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
If you don't mind. We didn't speak with a manager there. We spoke with some of the staff, and most of the staff actually are covered with their parking because there are a few spaces, privately owned spaces against the building there. So most of the staff are going to be unaffected by this. And they did say, like, as long as they have as long a lead time as they can to notify their customers, their clients, that they'll manage.
Just one other question.
Yes, follow up?
Yes, please, thank you. And I assume that there's not going to be parking meters. This is going to be like an app of some sort and so on. Is that correct?
I'll let Manager Stansfield answer that one.
Jill Stansfield, parking manager. Yes, so we will actually install at least one pay station to start, but we will also have the app available for that location as well.
I'm sorry, I meant to say pay station. I was groping for words. I meant to say we're not having meters, we're having a pay station and the app. Okay, thank you, I appreciate that.
Alderman Dow.
Yeah, just for the public's information and curiosity, how does this fit in with the charrette we had on the Milliard?
Yeah, so we got multiple different recommendations with the charrette, and we are seeing lots of development that would happen in that area based on their recommendations. However, that particular parcel, in all iterations, stayed some form of parking, whether that was a garage or surface lot. So we do anticipate lots of usage going forward, and they saw the need for even more parking spaces than we already have. So, we're anticipating much higher usage in the future there.
Okay, Alderman Sullivan.
Thank you very much. Can you remind me again, Zone 3 pricing?
Sure, so for, I'll do permits, and Jill, you can do the hourly. The permits, the daytime permits are $50 a month. Nighttime overnight parking off-peak is $30 a month, and then $75 a month for full 24-hour access there. Jill, do you want to do the hourly?
Sure. The hourly parking will be Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, and it'll be 75 cents per hour
Thank you.
with a 9-hour time limit.
Follow-up, please.
Follow-up?
There are the business owners, not the property owners, but the business owners, they have, I think they have some spaces now up against the buildings. Those will stay, go away?
Most of those are privately owned,
Okay,
and so they won't be affected by this. There are a few, I think there are 3 or 4 spaces up against the, kind of the backside, that renovated space that's vacant at the moment.
Yeah.
Those are city-owned, so those would be affected.
okay. A follow-up?
Yeah, follow-up. Would you like, before you get into your question, would you like us to bring it up on GIS?
No, I'm
Okay.
very familiar
All
with
right.
that parking lot.
Very good. Alderman Sullivan.
Thank you. Timeline on fixing potholes and putting in lights.
Jill, do you want to take this one?
So the adding of lighting into that parking lot is going to be a costly endeavor. We're looking at probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $20,000 to $30,000. Because there is no, right now, the way the lighting is set up, it's attached to the panel that's in the buildings, which is privately owned. So it's something that would be somewhat of a costly venture for us to do that. So again, another reason we were trying to put a mechanism in place to collect some revenue from this parking lot to help pay for that, pay for some of these costs.
And then the potholes.
The potholes, Jill, do you?
Those we've been patching. That's another kind of costly endeavor as far as having the entire lot repaved. But we do plan to, fill in the potholes that are existing right now, to kind of help get us along until we can actually, be able to fund the cost of repaving that parking lot.
Follow-up?
Just more of a comment. I'm really torn on this ordinance, and I'm just going to be, this is what's conflicting me. I see it as you own the business, not the property owner, but the business owner. You opened that business. Now, there are some for-profit businesses. There are some nonprofits in there, as we discussed prior. And when they opened that business, there was no paid parking, everything was free, and now this could change and impact their business. It could change and impact the nonprofits. But then on the other side, it needs lighting, and it's in desperate need of repair. I'm just going to look beyond. I just want to, from what I remember, it was about $200,000 a year. That was the estimated revenue from this parking lot based on usage, and I'm just going off the top of my head. I could be completely wrong.
I think the fiscal note was in here, wasn't it?
I don't have the full ordinance with me.
Okay.
I can certainly look at it.
Jill, you might be able to look it up for it while we're talking.
Yep, it was just over 200,000, it's $212,000.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm just really torn, Mr. Chairman, on where I'm going to go on this.
And,
I might need to think on it some more.
yeah, and that's fine. And to tell you the truth, if I may help, we already own it. We're not purchasing anything
No, right.
here. So eventually, we're going to have to pave it, and we're going to have to light it, regardless of what we're doing here.
Yep.
You know, paving and lighting is the right thing to do. We're already plowing it.
Yep.
And we're plowing it for a private entity. Yet businesses on Main Street have to come up with the parking plan for both their employees and for their customers. So this kind of expands the parking out a little bit, but it brings a fairness to all downtown. And then also, too, think, as we work in the infrastructure committee, we work a lot with puzzles. And let's not forget the NIMCO properties. And which was, somewhat approved and everything else, and they're going to need some additional parking and everything. So this is one of the pieces in the puzzle that kind of coordinates with all what we're doing in the future down there. So, Alderman Clee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am going to vote for this. I had mixed emotions, much like my colleague from Ward 9, but I have decided I am going to vote for this. While I agree that the businesses went in and it was free parking and so on, what's changed my mind is the fact is this city is, we are cutting here and there and so on. We are looking for different ways of revenue. And one of the things that we've taxed Ms. Stansfield is in order for her to maintain parking and her parking group is that's got to be self-sustaining. And parking revenue is what sustains our parking department. And that's been the way since it was created. So I know that in order for us to have a good parking department, for us to be able to have this. Now, I don't blame these people for saying, I want added lighting there. There is not enough lighting there. I don't blame them for saying, I want these potholes fixed. And I also don't blame them for saying, I want more than patches that in 3 weeks, we're going to drive over them and they're going to unplug, so to speak. But with all that comes money. So to have this revenue come in, whether it's $200,000 or whatever it is, some of that goes to Ms. Stansfield's, sustainability, and some of it goes towards maybe a plan for lighting or a plan for this. We can give these people what they need. And to our chairman's comments about we're going to have to do this anyways, why not build a fund that helps us do that? Which is why, as I've been sitting here listening, I am going to vote for this. We've been having this conversation so these people are aware this is going to happen. We're not hurting their employees as much if they've got that building, the parking that's close to the building. If suddenly it's not working out, we can always revisit and say, we have to change this. We've done this before with parking. We've come in and made amendments because we've had unintended consequences, and I'd rather move forward, and if we have to take a step back, we'll take the step back. So I think we should move forward rather than just stopping. And to your point, I do agree with much of what you have said, Alderman Sullivan. You make some but I think we do need to move forward. We've been kind of dragging on this for a while. And I think Ms. Stanton.
Yeah, Director Hammond?
I'll just clarify too, because I think only in the building number, or mill number 5
Okay.
area, the only parking that's available privately is what Greater Nashua Mental Health is using, and then Hearts around the corner there. So most of the businesses in there are using the paid parking, or the public parking for their staff. It's just Greater Nashua Mental Health and Hearts that have their own private through their rent. So the yoga studio, Banyan Tree, all of the, there's a lot of hairdressers in there. There's a few kind of art programs. All of those, their staff are renting space or would be renting space if we move forward with this. So they could either go for a permit or do an hourly parking.
Follow-up?
If I may then, to that comment then, did you speak to those individuals and how was their reaction to the fact that they might have to do that?
Yeah, they all seemed fairly resigned to the fact, no one loves paying for parking. But they all seemed resigned and kind of just wanted to know the date of when this would move forward, so that they could plan. And those were the most vocal about the issues around lighting and homelessness. So they are fully aware and ready to take it on, but I think they would love to see it be taken care of a little bit better.
Then if I just may make one comment to edit what I had said, then.
Okay.
Then it does give me a little bit more pause, but I think I'm still going to support it. Because as to what the chairman had said, those that have businesses on Main Street, their employees have to park or they have to get some type of parking permits and so on. So I think we're all in the same boat. And I do agree with what Alderman Sullivan had also said, in that they came into this business thinking that they had free parking. So it does take a bite out of their revenue, but I still think we have to support it, and if it does become a hardship, we need to look at it that way.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
It's definitely parking, paid parking especially, is always a balancing act between supporting the business community and doing the maintenance, and also making sure that there's enough turnover to support, to have enough spaces for all of the customers that could potentially come. So it's always going to be a balancing act between how to support the businesses the best and how to support their customers to find parking and how to maintain it. So it's always going to be a hard decision, just so you're aware. Parking, paid parking.
Okay, thank you for your patience, Alderman Thibodeau.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm glad that those conversations finally happened and that we actually spoke with the business owners. I agree, it's a cost of doing business. I would rather see it start in fiscal 2026, so that way people could have time to adjust their business plans rather than October. So I definitely.
Do you mean calendar
Calendar year?
26?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
So that would be my preference versus starting it in October. And then I was, with the parking schedule that you had, if you could go over that again. So it was a night parking rate, a daytime parking rate, Monday through Friday, and then there's a weekend? Is that,
No.
all right.
So
Could you clarify that?
full access is $75, and that is 24 hours a day.
Okay.
Monday through Friday, there's a daytime rate at $50 or an evening rate at $30. So one of the yoga studios, if they have classes only after 6 p.m., they would just get a $30 pass, evening off-peak kind of pass, versus the daytime $50 one.
Other than that, it would be hourly parking rate.
Correct, yep.
Follow, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, had Alderman Dow first. Oh, you have a follow-up?
Please.
Yes.
Is it intended to be nighttime usage as well? As a part? So, and also maybe make a recommendation that to get money coming in while we're waiting for businesses to work on making adjustments to their business plans is institute no parking or no paid parking during the daytime hours, Monday through Friday, and then institute the nighttime parking fee, because I know a lot of people, parking on people's lawns and sidewalks throughout the city because they have nowhere to park at night. So that would give availability and options for people to do nighttime parking there, get a little money coming in while businesses have time to work on that business plan updates. I guess, just throwing out ideas, I guess, whether they're good or bad, I don't know. That's all I had.
The Alderman, who is next? Alderman Sullivan, did you?
Yeah, I had a follow-up, because
Okay.
something wasn't working in my head. Why would I buy a permit for nighttime parking if parking is free after 6 o'clock Monday through Friday and free on the weekends?
Jill, do you want to take that one?
I agree.
Ms. Stanfield, can you answer Alderman Sullivan's question?
Yep, Jill Stansfield, parking manager. So the permit system that would be in place here would be our Tier 3 permit system. And so the full access would be 24/7 would be the permit, and that would be $75. The option for the daytime would be $50, and then the off-peak would be $30. The paid daily rate would be Monday through Friday, 9 to 6 at 75 cents an hour, 9-hour time limit. The all access permit would give them kind of all access, all hours. The daytime permit would, give them, the hours of the daytime permit are 7 to 7, Monday through Friday. And then the off-peak would be 6 p.m. to 8 a.m. And I know, as we're kind of talking through this, they wouldn't necessarily, I guess there wouldn't be a nighttime permit in this location, because they could opt to pay or opt to use the daily rate.
Can I, I'll jump in here too, there is a 9-hour time limit. And so that was the reason for the overnight permit, is that gives a 12-hour time frame versus, for businesses, it might not make sense if they're just using between 6 p.m. and 10 p.m. But if we're going to use it as overnight parking to supplement other locations in the area, they would probably be there for more than 9 hours. So that would be why we offer the overnight or off-peak.
All right, we have Alderman Dow next, and then you, Alderman Clay, in the queue.
Yeah, this lot is probably going to start getting a lot more use over time because we're developing the mill yard. We're also putting in a residential building, which is right next door. And if they have extra cars, they may want to use this lot overnight. And for that reason, I think the lighting's very important. I'm sure the paving's probably being handled by DPW. I don't know whether, unless we're going outside, which,
Yeah.
but anyway. But if you have a business anywhere else in town, downtown especially, people that go into your facility are paying for parking, whether they're in the garage, on the street, meters, other parking lots. So why would this be any different? If you have a business there and you want to provide parking, you can get the daily pass. Or if you want if people want to go to a business, then are they going to object to paying $75 cents an hour for parking? Probably not. I mean, if they go in a hairdresser, they're probably spending $200. So, in the past, I've had concerns about our paying for parking there, but not anymore, because if we're developing the mill yard and a lot of more people are gonna be parking there, and we're gonna develop a lot more businesses in the area, and, we have to pay to repave the parking lot because it's in terrible shape. And if we're gonna put in lighting, and we can get that kind of revenue from the parking lot, to me, I'm gonna support this. I'd had reservations in the past, but not anymore based on where we're going as far as the mill yard development.
Okay, Alderman Clay.
Yeah, again, a couple things. One is, I hate to keep harping on the permit and the cost, so I'm going to just try to make my statement. Listening to the times and so on of this zone, it sounds like, and I have to agree with the question mark that I think I still see over Alderman Sullivan's head. He just looked up to see it. Yep, it's there. It seems like parking here is free after 6 PM anyways, and that Saturdays and Sundays are free. So again, I have to ask, why would anybody want the off-peak,
Yeah, and
want an off-peak? I mean, I get that we need this in a Zone 3, maybe in a different area, but why would you have an off-peak thing? So,
Yeah.
you're allowed to park in this overnight? This is not like you can't park on the street overnight. You can park in this parking lot overnight, correct?
I
Am I
Jill,
correct?
if.
Ms. Stanfield?
Yeah, if you could clarify the time limit for, it's not unlimited time even when it's free, right? On the weekends and nights?
You're
Correct.
muted. You're muted.
Thank you. Jill Stansfield, Parking Manager. Yes, there is a 9-hour time limit for
Right.
this location, regardless of the paid parking hours.
So that is why we would offer the overnight pass. We do a lot of counseling with people, businesses that approach or are looking into the permit system. And so we may not recommend that. We would probably recommend for most of the businesses there that they don't purchase that, but other Zone 3 areas, we would. So if, we're just adding it to an existing zone where it already, those off-peak hours already exist. So we wouldn't necessarily recommend anyone purchase it, though.
Just a side comment to this, I have a feeling that the public at large does not realize that there's a 9-hour window off hours. They may not realize that you can only park here for free for 9 hours. I'm just saying that I didn't know that, to be
Okay.
honest with you. I did not know. I thought when 6 o'clock came, I could leave my car there overnight, and maybe I'm the only one that didn't know that, but just a side comment.
Okay.
And the other comment that I wanted to make was that my concern isn't so much that the customers have to pay as much as employees. But if you said that you've talked to these businesses and so on, I'm more comfortable. I'm still not comfortable, but I'm more comfortable.
All set?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Alderman Sullivan.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to amend this ordinance. I would like to amend that the start date be January 1st, 2026. And I would also like to put in a sunset clause of December 31st, 2027. Could I speak to it?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. I think it starts clean in January. A little more time is better. To Alderman Dowd's point, I do understand that businesses on Main Street have to pay for parking, but if I'm a business owner, and in this case, I'm really siding with the business owners. When I opened my business, it was free. That was an advantage. It's out of the way, it's kind of whatever, but it's free parking, and that's good. That's an advantage. So a little bit more time is better. Somebody around the horseshoe said, it might have been you, Director Hannum, somebody said that we can revisit this. That's why I want to put the sunset clause in there. It gives us 2 full years to look at revenue, to see the patterns. And overall, I'm really thinking, as I get more into this role, that we should put a sunset clause on every single piece of legislation so we can debate it whenever that is. And I just think it allows us to track some revenue usage, how it's going, and if at the end of 2027, hopefully NIMCO will be further along, the development in the mill yard will be further along, and we can evaluate at that point if we want to stop it or continue it. So my motion is to start this January 1st, 2026, and end it December 31st, 2027.
Okay. We have a motion now open for discussion on the motion, and the chair would like to speak. We have a lead of 6 months, and Alderman Thibodeau, I agree with you. we should have, to help the business owners to make whatever the business model for the implementation of this. But this affects the employees. There's no business model that I can see out of this. It's our land, municipal land, and we have a responsibility to the taxpayers. If they want to use it as a parking lot, then I'm sorry to say, we have the right to charge for this. And as we're looking, we got 6 months left of maybe some good time to do some digging. In January, way too late to put in the kiosk, So what's going to happen in the meantime, I'm not going to be out there with a jackhammer, I assure you, putting up a kiosk or pouring concrete in freezing weather, So that will probably have to be done earlier in the construction season. But this, too, has been discussed with the business owners for, a couple years, Ms. Handem? And so nobody should say act surprised and drop jaw that this was coming, But again, with the pending projects, as Alderman Dowd has brought up, with the NIMCO, which is now moving, in the right direction, I'm always happy when we get rid of a derelict building that could kill a firefighter, and turn it into something that is very positive for the community. I think this goes in mind. And so therefore, I think most of the business community in that area has been familiar with this, and I think we can go with the original start date. But it is open for discussion. Alderman Clee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the maker of the motion, I don't have any issue with the sunset. I kind of agree with it, and I think I was the one who made the comment about we can always revisit this. I think it's healthy to hold our feet to the fire, to say let's give ourselves whether it's us, because we do have an election coming on, or another board, to kind of force that date. And I believe Ms. Stansfield and Ms. Hannum will keep an eye on this and to bring it to the board. Hopefully, it doesn't go like it does like this. So instead of putting a sunset date of 2027, I'd kind of like to have a sunset date of 2028, only because it takes a long time for them to develop, to find out what the monies are going to be, and this board takes a long time to make up their mind, so I would like to push that out an extra year. And I think, to the chairman's point, I think the date of October is good. It gets us through the summer. It's giving them enough notice. I don't think it's going to hurt their budget for 1 quarter, for 3 months. I think starting this in the middle of winter is kind of not a great thing. It gives us a little bit of extra revenue and so on. So if you would be, I don't want to amend your motion or something, but if you're willing to look into perhaps keeping the date as is and pushing that, the sunset date, I could fully support a sunset date of December 31st, 2028. I do like the sunset date. I do think it's good to keep the board to that, but I think keeping it as is of 10/1 rather than starting it. I'd be interested in hearing what Ms. Stansfield has to say about starting something in the middle of winter, or if it's better just to say, get us through the summer, let the employees and so on work through the summer with this, where they're going to have more customers and so on, and give them that 3 months of the summer to get used to it, and then say as of October 1. It's kind of how everything is happening, downtown changes and so on. But you are the maker of that motion. I just can't support the motion as it stands, but I like the idea of the motion, so.
All right, Alderman
My
Dowd.
Yeah, I have no problem with the amended motion. Trust me, if they had to, they could dig into the ground no matter how cold it is. But if they were smart, they would put them in and put a bag over them. If this passes and they know it's going into effect and it's going to start January 1st, they put those in late fall and put a bag over them and then energize them on the 1st of January. I don't see that as a problem. I don't see any problem with starting it in January 1st. And as far as the end date, I mean, we can modify it at any time. We don't even have to wait till the end date to modify it, or get near the end date, we can modify it another year or two or whatever. So I don't think we need to change the motion as it was made. I think I'll support it.
Alderman Sullivan.
In the spirit of compromise and negotiation, I would like to amend,
Your
further
amendment?
amend. Can I further amend? Is that,
Why don't you withdraw it
I would,
Make the new.
and then make a new amendment?
I would
And
like
I
to.
will allow that. So Alderman Sullivan, do you have,
I would like to withdraw my motion
yes,
to amend,
Yes. And then make
and then
a
I
new
would
one.
like to make another motion to amend.
yes.
is that
You are
right?
recognized for a new amended, to make
Thank
an
you.
amended, yes.
And in the spirit of compromise, I would like to have this amendment to this ordinance start January 1st, 2026, but end December 31st, 2028.
Okay, everybody understands that? And Alderman Sullivan, I hear it. I just want to, Ms. Stanfield, you had the potential Sullivan amendment, the new amendment, January 1st and then sunsetted to look at it again in December of '28. Do you see any problem with any of that?
Jill Stansfield, parking manager. I would be okay with that. I don't think it's a bad idea to kind of have a plan to revisit it before the end of that period, as there will be a new development going on in that neighborhood, and there will likely need to be changes to the parking structure, the fees and fines structure, if you will. So I don't think that that's a bad idea. I do caution about putting a pay station in the winter. We could install it before the winter, but that isn't between $8,000 and $10,000 piece of equipment that would just kind of be sitting stagnant, not in use, and not recouping any money back towards the cost of it. So I would prefer to see us be able to install it not in the dead of winter, and not have it also sitting there for several months. But definitely not opposed to it, but those are my comments. But I'm definitely not opposed to the period, the time period that Alderman Sullivan has proposed.
Alderman Dowd?
Yeah, what you can do is, and what we've done in other school projects is, you could put the infrastructure in, you could put the wiring underground, you could put the post and the thing that the box is gonna go on, but don't put the box on until later. So you don't have to put the box out there for a couple of months, but you could put the infrastructure in while it's easier to dig in the ground.
Yeah, we can certainly do that.
Okay, I'm not against the Sullivan Amendment, but what kind of triggers me is we're searching for revenue, and we're going to miss 3 months of revenue. So can I ask the question either to Ms. Hannum or to Ms. Stanfield? What is the yield of this parking here, and what will we lose financially for a delay of 3 months?
Yeah, Liz Hannum, Economic Development Director. If the fiscal note says 200,000 for a year, a quarter would be 50,000. So that would be what we would miss between that October to December, or to January 1st timeframe. And so that might cover the cost of lighting or things like that. So it's a compromise that you get to decide on.
Yeah. I mean, if we're going to charge, I think everybody has been notified,
Yes,
and it's the loss of revenue, because we're deciding a revenue generator here, and I don't know, not too comfortable with that. Alderman Sullivan?
I took a peek at the fiscal year 2026 parking revenue, and you had forecasted between enforcement and, what's the other one?
maintenance,
Maintenance.
operations, yeah.
Yes, for about 1.6 million in revenue. Is this parking lot property in that revenue projection? It is, at a full 200,000?
Yes, yes, so, and we're nowhere near hitting that because we didn't implement the parking changes that we estimated in that revenue estimation for FY '25 until January 1st. So we only had 6 months of the new fees, and we had estimated that we would have a full year of those. But we're doing really well for what we anticipated, so we're on track, assuming we have a full staff.
Okay.
Okay, further discussion? Okay, I'm going to call for the vote then. All those in favor signify, this is on the second Sullivan Amendment. The first one was withdrawn.
Yes, sir.
This is the second
You
one.
want me to read it?
Yes, if you can, please.
Yes, I can. The motion by Alderman Sullivan is to amend the start date to January 1st, 2026, and to put in a sunset date of 12/31/2028.
Okay,
3 years.
Yes.
Yep, great.
good? Everybody good? Okay, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? One nay, me. Sorry, Alderman Sullivan, but
That's 4 yeas.
the loss
and
of
two-
revenue.
I understand.
4 yeas and 1 nay,
Yes, please. Yeah. And
and that carries.
I hate charging for parking. I got to pay it myself sometimes, but, we're still cheaper than Boston, I'll tell you.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay,
And
well,
so
thank
You
you.
want me to do the motion
motion?
with amendment?
Yes, we got to finalize this, please. And read it as
As amended. Okay.
024-034 as amended.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I have a motion to recommend final passage as amended of 024-034.
Okay, any further discussion on the main motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, we also have, there's an item that's still going to remain on the table, Deerwood Drive, so we'll keep that right there. That's comfortable right there. And I'll open it up to general discussion. Yes, Alderman Clay.
I'd like to thank my colleague from Ward 9 for changing his motion and to willing for compromise and so on. I appreciate that. Thank you. And the question mark over his head looking.
I would like to, in response to that, I appreciate the coaching from the chair and the clerk in getting me through that.
No, you did well. You
4
did
years
well.
in this seat, and I still don't get it.
Since we're in general discussion, I hope we don't set a trend. I did disagree with sunsetting things, because then it becomes repetitious, and we're going to have to put cots in the building. You know what I mean? Because our workload is enough, and now if you got things coming back
I
at you.
tell you, I'm really warming
You
up
know.
to the idea.
Remember, everybody that's learned to throw a boomerang knows how to duck, so.
But what about it was a good idea at the time situation?
Well, that's fine. This isn't going to hurt it.
Yeah,
And-
okay.
No, nothing. And we did solve a big issue here tonight with the parking. Yes, Alderman Dow.
Two things, compromise is great. I wish the hell that more politicians in various levels of government would do it. And I think that, you know, as far as putting a time limit on or grandfathering things works on some things, doesn't work on most things, especially bonds. You can't do that to bonds. So.
Right,
Although they already have a time limit of 20 years, so.
yeah.
Anybody else? Okay, public comment? I don't see anybody here. And if there's no objection, I think we already had remarks from the alderman. Are we good? So then I will now turn to Alderman Clee.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, and I'll declare the meeting closed at 8:15. Thank you all.